So, Aqua Teen Hunger Forever Plantasm is the second Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie. And I remember when I saw the last Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie and way back in 2007, what's it called? Aqua Teen Hunger Force: movie film for theaters. And it was about what I expected from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. So like the whole draw, I think, of Aqua Teen is that it's a subversion of what you'd expect for what seems to be like, promoted within like the openings. Like you watch the opening for Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and it's always portrayed as like this, like, action-packed, exciting sci-fi adventure series. And then you get to the actual show itself, and just like the characters just like meander, they ignore threats, they don't pay attention, they're apathetic, and everything just kind of blows up in their face, and barely anything works out for them. Which was a lot of the fun of Aqua Teen. That was what was great about it. I love what they did with the film, with movie film for theaters, because that did pretty much what I expected for Aqua Teen. They encounter a big threat to humanity and barely do anything about it. And they just get lost and sidetracked in all these other funny things that happen, which is great. Which is why I'm a bit disappointed in Plantasm, because Plantasm feels like it's just gonna throw all that out the window and just deliver kind of the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie that seems to be promised in like the openings. And I think it's just because like the characters succeed a lot, and I think as a finale that might be okay, but it just feels like this story is on too much of a rigid track, because like the whole premise is that the characters of Shake, Frylock, Meatwad, and Carl, they've all separated, they've gone their separate ways, but then they're called back into action when they have to face off against a new threat. I believe his name was like Neil, was it? It was basically like a parody of kind of billionaires, so more or less Amazon with the way that they're portraying this character, just this short little rude guy. I'm trying to remember. It's Neil, voiced by Peter Seferowitz, and Neil's basically it's basically just like an Amazon satire at that point. Like they show off how this character has enslaved alien worlds and forced them into slave labor, and tries to prevent them from unionizing, and ultimately ends up replacing them with plant monsters. But the plant monsters go haywire, they try to take over the world, and it's up to Aqua Teen Hunger Force to stop the plant monsters. And unfortunately, I guess, it sounds weird to say this, but unfortunately, that's exactly what they do. The Aqua Teen Hunger Force actually like train and prepare, and they use weapons, and they gun down and attack and fight the plant creatures in a very big way. And it just felt off for me. It's like, here's a film where it's like they stick so close to just like maintaining like the same story. It's just like, oh, there's a billionaire and he's going to ruin the planet with these plant monsters. There might be a little weird meta commentary in there about, nature and all that, but it's not hard to pun here. And you'd feel like, okay, for this, that's a decent premise, but then you've got to make this feel more like Aqua Teen. It feels like they should get lost more in, with all the other like weird characters that they've set up. And they don't do much of that here, which is kind of a disappointment. The most we get is that we get the evil Moonanite characters keep interrupting the film at several points and fast forwarding through it and skipping parts. And they keep trying to ruin the movie, which is, it's funny for like the first 2 times, but I think they do this like 4 or 5 times throughout the entire film. And it keeps like they keep doing commentary on it, like oh, we're ruining your movie, the movie that you paid for, which your hard-earned money that you're only getting 75 minutes of, and we're wasting your time. Aren't we funny? And the thing is, it's pulling back the curtain a little bit too much, because yes, that's kind of been the joke with like a lot of Adult Swim shows, is that they're just trying to like troll the audience with what they're doing. That's a very Adult Swim thing to do, but here, the trolling is literally just the characters saying, haha, we're trolling you. Which is not that clever. Like, I don't mind if you want to, like, troll the audience. Like, Adult Swim has been, like, great at doing this. Like, a perfect example is, like, there was a Space Ghost episode where they wasted 10 whole minutes of just Space Ghost following an ant home to kill it. That's great. But there's never a moment where like Space Ghost turns to the camera and says, haha, I'm wasting valuable airtime of the Space Ghost episode chasing this ant. Because the joke itself is just that they're wasting your time. And that it's just absurd for how long it keeps going on. But with the Moonanites, it's like you keep explaining the joke and it's not as funny. Like there is some funny stuff they kind of do with this premise towards the end when like the Moonanites get their ass kicked and they just fast forward through it and they're just going, oh, we're not going to show this part. I mean, it's, you know, if you want, you kind of say like, okay, they're just kind of like aping off Spaceballs. They kind of did that same deal. But I kind of got a decent smirk out of that, which is saying a lot because there isn't a lot of incredibly funny stuff here. There's some smirk-worthy stuff, but I think the longer it keeps going, trying to establish this plot about this Amazon company and the plant creatures, it kind of loses its way. It kind of becomes very exposition-heavy. It doesn't really find that many funny lines or asides. And you would think with so many characters they've developed in Aqua Teen, they could just throw in whatever they wanted. And yet, there are a few that they use, but they're very sparingly used. Like, I don't know, I was kind of a big fan of Markula. I thought he was a ridiculous vampire character. I would have liked to see more of him. And you do get a little bit of him. He kind of more or less bookends the film, but you can't help but feel like there's so much more you could do with Aqua Teen and this premise, rather than just being a standard save the world, fight Amazon type story. And it's sadly not. It feels like it's just kind of on autopilot. And the fact that, as the last joke of the film, they've kind of they have the Moonanites come in the credits and say, you just wasted 75 minutes of your life and $25 buying this Blu-ray so that you could do this. Even though I didn't buy the Blu-ray, I watched it on HBO Max, so the joke really doesn't work here. And I'm sure most people realize, this is probably just going to end up on HBO Max anyway, so the joke doesn't work unless you're a die-hard Aqua Teen fan and you bought the Blu-ray. And even then you might feel gypped because it doesn't really feel like an Aqua Teen type of film. It feels like someone's fan servicey version of Aqua Teen where it's I just want to see the Aqua Teens fight a bunch of people for the first time and actually be really good at it. And it's if that's what you want, okay, but that's not kind of been the draw for Aqua Teen for me. The biggest draw has been that the Aqua Teen Hunger Force have always failed at what they've tried to accomplish, and they always get distracted and they always meander and find funnier stuff to do on top of a general save the world premise, which is usually just used as a not quite firm lattice for having all these other ridiculous jokes. And sadly we don't get that, so we just get this kind of rigid save the world story which doesn't really have as much fun with the characters as you'd like, which is a downer. I mean, I was really looking, I've loved Aqua Teen ever since I was in high school, and coming back to it now, it doesn't have the same pizzazz. So, unfortunately, Plantasm it's not a good Aqua Teen movie.